Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Paint Party live stream. I want to wish you and yours a very happy new year. This is the first episode of the new year, so I hope your 2023 got kicked off to a great start. We are on episode 89 of the live stream, plugging right along, almost 2 years into this journey of my Learn to Paint process. This live stream is just a way that I can continue to drive my learning to paint process, and I look forward to continuing that in the coming year. The live stream's really laid back. Those of you that have been here for previous episodes or have been here from the beginning, you know it's really laid back. It's kind of like an open house. Pop in and pop out. Feel free to engage in the conversation through the comments wherever you're watching us. Glad to have people on a variety of social media platforms across the internet, but the primary place where we stream is, of course, YouTube. So glad to have you all here. All right, jumping into this next year, we are going to continue developing, I'm going to continue developing my painting skills and bringing you along for that journey. So if that's of interest to you, feel free to join us every Monday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern for the live stream. We usually paint for an hour or two and I usually try to start a new painting every week. So we usually get a decent way into the painting. We don't usually get done with the painting. But this year we're going to focus on, at least at the beginning of the year, we're going to focus on composition, which I had started focusing on that at the beginning of, or at the end of last year. We're going to continue that, and then we're going to continue to develop some additional skills, fundamental skills. Along the way, I'm also going to push myself not only in my painting capacity, but also in creativity. So you'll get some kind of my thinking around creativity and pushing myself, whether that is color, whether that is scale of painting, whether that is the subject of the painting. I'm going to be pushing myself more this year to explore my creativity. So the live stream will be a way to do that. All right, good to see a lot of, I guess, regular faces. So Lola, always good to see you. I'll switch over here as I always do. Good to see you, Lola. So glad to have you as always. You, I think, have been here since the beginning, or probably the second or third one. So let's see. And Mom and Dad are in the house. So glad to have you as always. Hello, Whooper Mood. So glad to always have my Twitch folks here. It looks like, let's see. Looks like your feed is lagging. I'm so sorry about that. Feel free to pop back in if it fixes or it gets better. Always glad to have you. You can always jump over to YouTube as well and find us there if it's just Twitch that is lagging for you. All right. Glad to have our Twitch folks, though, and new people popping in. So, all right. We are going to get started this evening. I'm going to move my canvas camera around. But before we do that, I want to kind of introduce the approach for the painting this evening. So, let's see. One of the things I wanted to show you and explain to you kind of a technique that is an old master's technique. I'm moving this around, so pardon me. An old master's technique to painting, and I'm going to attempt sort of that approach this evening. And so to do that, I want to kind of explain what it is. You'll get a little art history lesson, so to speak, or kind of a art history / art appreciation lesson. Let me plug this in while I'm thinking of it. I often get to the end of the live stream and my camera is almost dead. So, all right, so you'll get kind of a brief intro or kind of art history lesson. So let me jump over here and pull up my desktop. And I'll leave my camera there. Okay, so one of the things that I am interested in trying out are techniques, and you see me play around with this a little bit. It's typically in an oil setting, but it's this idea of a grisaille, and I'm not French, so it may be pronounced Grisaille, I think, or Grisaille. But it literally means grade. There's also, you can see here in the definition, the other terms, brunaille, which is what we're going to kind of work with tonight. You can also do it with a green tone. So basically, if you think about it, we have our main colors, which are red, blue, our primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, right? So you have your Grisaille, which is more a colder. You have your brunaille, which is kind of a brown or reddish tone, and then you have your green, which is more the yellow tone. And you can see that in the examples on the side here. Let me scroll those up. So you can see these famous examples. This is basically when an artist paints typically in oil, it's an underpainting of the full composition. It is a way to focus on composition and value structure before you add all the other components of the painting. And the reason it works so well and why it's been so successful over all these centuries is that you're basically breaking down the painting process to focus on one or two things at a time. So on these underlaying layers, you're adding your values, your composition, your drawing, making sure that's correct. And then once you do it, you slowly begin to add color. What that does in oil painting is it then adds layers, and it takes much, much longer because oil painting sometimes has to dry for weeks or months. And even the final painting, maybe a year or two to fully dry and fully cure. So you have these layers which add layers and add so much more definition and vibrancy, and of course the brush strokes, you can see a lot of the texture of the painting in the underlayers when you paint in this message or in this method. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening. We're going to explore this even though I'm using acrylic. Hey there, Jess, so good to see you. Hope you are well. Happy New Year to you and your fam. I'll be touching base with you soon to pick up those paintings and swing by sometime when I go to Belfouche. So anyway, so I am going to explore this kind of example or this kind of process in my painting this evening, but I wanted to kind of introduce it to you, give you a chance to understand what it is. This says that they typically resemble drawings, normally in a monochrome. Artists from the Renaissance were trained to produce this type of painting, and this basically, because it's monochrome, it can really highlight deficiencies in somebody's skill. So that's also something that's going to be evident for you this evening. I thought a great way to do this, I will jump over and take that down and then put up my reference photos. And we're going to start this morning. I can get rid of myself there and add, whoops, not what I wanted to do. Add the palette there so you can see. And what we're going to do then is this landscape. I do have a colored version of it, but for this Grisaille level or layer, we are going to, let me see if I can, oops, nope, that moves me behind that. We are going to focus on kind of a grayscale. I'm actually going to paint it more in a brunaille style, so with more browns and reds, but this is what we're focused on. I really, really want to, for this stage of the painting, I really want to focus on getting the values and the contrast between lights and darks really, really dialed in. So let's see if we can do that. I'm going to jump over, to my canvas, turn on my light so I can see. All right, let me kind of put this, I don't want to make it so small y'all can't see the, but I may have to adjust my canvas. I think it's a 14 by 18 or 14 by 16 or something canvas. So it's not tiny, but not super large. And what we want to do is begin to I wonder if I can move this, because that's distracting to me. That image in the background. I don't know if it is to you as well. Maybe not. Let's do that. I'll just... There we go. All right. So glad I have space in my studio to do this. So we are going to begin to lay in our composition. Lay in the composition. And the grid you see was taken from an artist on YouTube named Jono, who's a graphite and charcoal artist, but he is really kind of brilliant. And so I want to, and this really helps with laying out, because in classical oil painting, they would do the Grisaille, or they would do, actually, the first layer would be like this toning layer where the white of the canvas would show through a little bit. And then they would do the transfer layer where they transferred the image or the drawing. I'm kind of incorporating some of these. They would transfer the drawing and then they would do the Grisaille. I'm actually incorporating the... sorry, I'm adjusting something on my screen, off screen. So, yeah. Let's see. We are going to lay in as close as we can the values in this, and also the key components. Now I want to look at composition and see if there's anything I want to change. You'll notice the top of the mountains start here and they kind of slope across this center line. That's why this composition works. And then they come back up and touch here, and so your eye is just drawn across. But I want this kind of light and dark area to, I want to emphasize the light and dark area at the center, because that's where I want the eye to be drawn. And so in black and white, you can see the contrast. One of our most dark spots is here, and then here, and the lightest spot is there. So we're going to put that in, and then we'll kind of lay the other tones around it. So let's start pretty dark. And I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I've thought this through, but I've not really tested it. So we'll just kind of see how it works. Hopefully it will work. But I'm going to mix some... Oh, you know what I did? I did that big old introduction, all that yammering, and then I didn't put on my painting apron, which is important because it keeps paint off of my clothes and microphone and glasses, etc. So, all right. Hope everybody had a good week. Y'all are kind of quiet today, but welcome to those of you who are just popping in. There's a few more people that have popped in. I know I have lurkers every week, but glad to have you. You're welcome to participate in the live stream in the comments wherever you're watching, asking questions or making comments. I always love to engage with you. It kind of keeps my brain going. And tomorrow I have a presentation I'm giving here in town that I'm a little, not nervous about, but excited for. And so I'm glad I have this opportunity to kind of break my nerves. Focus on something else. And I'm just focused on shapes of shadow, basically. This is something I want to continue to develop, is my control of values, and my understanding of controlling values, because it's so much of why paintings work. Or don't. By looking at this black and white, it forces you to really just see your shadow spots. It's amazing how difficult, to me it's amazing how difficult it is to paint just shadow areas, or just black and white. Oh, this should be over here actually. Even when I'm looking at it, I get it wrong. When I'm looking directly at it, and I have a grid there to guide me, I still miss it. Wow. Yeah, I'm really messing this up. Okay. That's all right, though. Hey, Sid. It's been a while. My goodness. Years. I'm going to be passing through Arkansas. Are you still up in Northwest Arkansas? I'm hoping to pass through in April sometime. Would be great to catch up, my friend. Let's see. And I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, I have a feeling. But I'm going into the light way too early, probably. We'll figure it out, though. And if we do this correctly, that's the fun of painting. It's constantly forcing you to make judgments about what you see. Ah, New Orleans. New Orleans. Wow. I was hoping to get there before I left Arkansas because I loved going down to New Orleans, and I never did. But I have friends down there, so maybe I need to come down to New Orleans. This time of year is a good time to, well, the next few months, to get out of the mountains and out of the cold. Although we are having some unseasonably nice breaks. That's one thing I love about this part of the country is it is we get 5 foot of snow. Well, not always, but like we did a couple of weeks ago, and then like it's going to be almost 50, and we're going to be warm for a week or two before it gets cold again, probably. So that's kind of nice. All right, I laid in some of the lighter marks. It's cold there. Yeah, you're cold. It's different because you have the humid cold. So 50 there feels really cold. But 50 up here is really nice if it's sunny because it's, well, 40 even. I was out today with just a jacket on because we have such dry air. But yeah, I know we sent our weather down to y'all down, I think it made it that far down south. I know it made it to Little Rock and Texas, but we had like a week where it was like we were negative probably 5 or 10 for highs, so it was like really, really cold. But, all right, let me mix this up a little bit. See, okay. I'm putting my brightest spots kind of down, and they always dry lighter, but that way, because what we want to do then is come in and put some of the, looking at both of these, then I want to get the laid in the values or the composition, and then I want to really dial in the values before I really do any sort of color work. So I want to put in, so I'm really just looking at these I think that's going to be a little too dark. What kind of a... This is a different experience because I'm mixing basically 3 or 4 colors in a wide variety of versions. So I'm having to kind of see, because I'm really trying to judge value tones more than the color. So this is almost like starting over with color mixing. But it really is a... I heard a quote from another artist this week that I don't doubt, but basically Winston Churchill said something like, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, other than outright like physical exertion, painting, there's nothing like painting that will leave you mentally exhausted when you're done. And I would agree. And I'm noticing that as I'm doing this, just this exercise is really, like, my brain is really taxing my brain, which is good. And so I'm doing the process that the old masters did that I described to you. Even though I'm doing acrylic, I'm kind of, going to be putting lots of layers in here. And you can see the grids are showing through still. So this is very light. But in oil painting, this is what you want to do, even though I haven't dived into oil painting. You want lighter, you want thin layers to heavy layers because oil dries so slowly. You don't want to glop on very heavy layers and then, take 6 months to dry. So you kind of have to... this is like right in here, I think. Start to see some darker. Let's see. Oh no. Oh, that darkened that significantly. We'll put that in. My paint is really drying fast tonight. I guess we have really lighter air than normal, which is fine. I need to... Again, even this down here, I'm looking at basically blocks of where it's all the same, essentially the same value. I'm looking at the same blocks of the grid and just trying to plug it in. So that is what my brain is doing. Whoa, I just put a bunch of brown there. So let's use that bad boy up and bring some blue in. Darken it a little bit. It goes across here, down at the bottom. Get the edge of this Just sitting down in my easel. This picture, when it's in black and white, is reminds me of like Ansel Adams photography. That's probably like there's something beautiful about it in its own right. I can't wait to show you the colored or the full color version though. We'll kind of tuck these in. There are spots of light and dark in these areas as well. Oh, thanks. It is, some people have told me they watch it and it's just kind of meditative. They'll put it on in the background while they're doing something else and kind of watch throughout the live stream, and then they come back and see what I've done. But it helps me. I'm an external processor, so being able to sometimes talk through and to force myself to think through what I'm doing and why is very, I think, helpful. But it's also fun because it's kind of social, even though we're all separated by a certain amount of distance, to be able to kind of hang out virtually and people can comment or ask questions. And I hope it's, especially the people that dial in often each week, I hope over time, as I learn, I hope it's kind of educational to you and interesting to you. That's my goal, at least. Let's see if we brighten this up too much. Happy New Year, Bob G. So glad to see you in the live stream. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you. Thanks, Sid. I am here every Monday evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 your time. And would love to have you hang out anytime you can. And I usually do to my Facebook, like you found me, my personal Facebook, but then I also live stream to YouTube. That's where the main public is for those who aren't personal connections on Facebook. So you can always, sometimes it also doesn't throw over to my Facebook. So if you ever can't find it and you're looking for it, you can check YouTube as well. So we'll see how this works. Just kind of, it's so difficult. It's amazing how much variation there is in just blacks and whites, lights and darks. It was great. Happy New Year to you all. I was down in Denver for New Year's, but just passed through. So next time I get down, I'll have to ping y'all as I come north. I came north Monday after New Year's, and it was kind of hairy coming up into Wyoming past Greeley, so I didn't stop. But yeah. Oh, that's so kind. I find that when I watch painters who are, like, well, anybody who puts out publicly, and especially painters that are like down the road from me, like, I think because I started this not to quote be good, really. I mean, I want to be decent, I want to learn, but I'm not trying to be great. And so, like, I'm not trying to compete with like an Andrew Tischler or some other painter on YouTube, Chris Fornatello, or whoever you watch on YouTube. And so, like, it's freed me up, I think, a lot to kind of just kind of play with this and learn as I go, and to appreciate all of this. And I'm with you. Like, I get inspired when I see other people painting. And honestly, I just watched a video, a full like 2-hour tutorial on basically this process of Grisaille painting, and it was very like informed. You could just see, like, once somebody breaks it down and you're like, oh, that's what the masters were doing, or that's what such and such painter was doing, then you understand how kind of the game and like how it's played, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, yes, they clearly had developed skill, a lot of the masters, from the time they were. I'm reading a book about Leonardo da Vinci right now. Again, I did the Van Gogh one last year. This one isn't quite as big. It's Isaac, or what's the guy? Walter Isaacson or William Isaacson, the biographer but he wrote kind of one of the authoritative on Da Vinci. And it wasn't that these people were so, I mean, yes, they were geniuses and skilled, but they also, they were just insatiably curious, and they tried a bunch of different things, and they, were constantly doing. And when somebody breaks it apart and is like, okay, this is the process, and they did this layer and this layer, and, because if you copy the drawing, like if you do it in the layers, like this tutorial laid out the layers of like a master painter, and they're like, they did this layer and then they did the drawing, and then so by the time they actually get to the kind of finishing the painting, there's nothing, like they didn't do, like it's not that difficult, because they had all these steps in the process and did layers, and you kind of just break down for your brain how to do this. And so I think this is where I need to bring in some of this. Those of you who are regulars may have seen, I also posted this week a goal setting video on goal setting for creatives. And so I'm wanting to do some more kind of sit down videos, which I think I told you last week on some of the topics that are, or kind of my process. So if there are subjects or things that you think would be a good discussion for a more scripted video, feel free to ping me or give me those suggestions off camera. Would love to include more thought process videos. See, I took it too bright there. But you get some on the palette and then you have to, or on the canvas, and then you kind of have to adjust. I will try to remember, Lola, but I think I have my personal Facebook still set, like, so it, like, it's not discoverable. But I will definitely ping you, if not privately on Instagram, so you can connect with me there. Yeah, just remind me if I forget. Because I don't think I have it set. I think I at one point had set it so it was not discoverable publicly, and then people couldn't find me or couldn't add me. So, because I was trying to keep Facebook as kind of just my, I don't do a lot on Facebook other than simulcast this live stream, so it's kind of it's more just like when I connect personally with people. But even then I don't, I have to like intentionally go on Facebook to search something. But yeah, happy to that may be too, well, it might work. I took some blue into this. That's why it's looking darker. But I think this could be good to establish some of these shadows that I don't know Because the crazy thing is, it's hard, like with values like this down here, this blue looks pretty dark. Up here, it doesn't look dark at all. Or right there, it doesn't look dark at all. But those are the same exact colors. Isn't that strange? So it's all about what, what colors are next to it, or not even what colors, but what value shade is next to it. And so this is a whole, it's a game of figuring out, okay, like how do I, what is actually, what looks dark there next to that, and what doesn't, and what looks light, so that the balance to the human eye, that's part of the game, is that the human eye interprets it as something that it may or may not be, which is kind of fun to me, actually. Okay, while I'm doing this, I'm going to stop for a minute because I haven't done any progress photos, and I've been really close up on this for a while, so I need to do some progress photos. Oh man, my eyeballs hurt from being up on this. I'm just messing with my light, y'all. Someday I'm going to have a light behind me, but up above, and have a big studio with light behind me and above, so it will be much better on the canvas. Because right now we're getting all this glare, especially up in here. So, let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, that's not working. It was dark, but now it's light. There's too much. Okay. Too much white in the brush. So now, I mean, there is still a line of demarcation. You can tell how bad I am at this. I think I'm going to do off camera a bunch of, probably a bunch of, but look how dark this looks up here then. Exercises that are short, quick exercises on like monochromatic studies, because clearly, like if I did 20 or 30 small little like 4x5 inch, 5x6 inch studies, I think I would have a lot more. I would quickly accelerate my skill. This is way too bright, isn't it? So yeah, anyway, it's really funny to see, to find something that I'm just not good at. I remember when I started and I said I was dreading the day when I would become good at color mixing and these other things I was struggling with, because then I would know how to do it. But I found that there's always something you don't know. That's kind of the fun part of it too, again. That is like, anyway, it's definitely fun to reach the end of your skill and realize I'm not going to improve if I don't learn something different. At least to me, that's fun. We'll keep working it. I'm going to try something. Notice how tedious and how time-consuming this process is, and this is something that the tutorial I was talking about said as well, about the process of these masters, because they were doing all these layers and you would do all this work. You basically do a whole painting trying to get just the right value balance. You paint it over and over and over. Trying to get it correct. And it's all about, the more you understand about how the light is hitting the rock face and the direction of light and what kind of light is reflected, and it's all in there. Little by little, yes, it does. That's the fun part to me, is if you keep working these things like this, then all of a sudden you're going along and it's like, oh, there's the mountain, and it just pops out, or whatever you're painting. So you're going along kind of making all these random, what seem to be random marks. And obviously the more sophisticated you get with your mark making and understanding of what you're doing, this is a very, very, basically a very first, at least to this level, where I forced myself to be this precise with just the monochromatic deal. So I'm really clearly struggling, not in a bad way, just I don't really know what I'm doing and I'm trying to figure it out. So it's, yeah. But I'm starting to feel this is mid-ground, foreground, background, further background. So already it's starting to sort of read correctly to me in the way I want it to. So that is encouraging to me. Now I just have to figure out how to do what I want to do. I need to put the sky in because that's a value balance too to this. Also, I guess I should say that's a value balance also. There we go, little by little. And notice how we have, the reason this composition works so well, we have it going along so many lines, it's perfectly placed almost, but also the point of the lightest light and the darkest dark is almost side by side. So probably this shadow back in here is maybe the darkest dark value wise. There's some pretty dark values down in here, but I'm going to de-emphasize those because I want this to be, I want you to be drawn in. I want when somebody looks at this, I want the feeling, I want their eye to go here, but I want them to feel the magnitude of this rock formation because of this. But I want them, they will be able to look at it and they won't know why it makes them feel that way. But this is what we're doing as the artist. We're emphasizing this contrast so your eye draws you into the painting and you feel like it's almost like when you watch those shows or a video image where it's like you're going through space or time and it, you know, the image is flying past you and the center is where your focus is and everything else is blurry on the side. That's not what we're going to do, but that's the feeling. And by emphasizing that contrast, that will help us get there. You can already see if I de-emphasize some of this contrast, emphasize this contrast, and get these correct, you can already see that starting to happen. Like Sid said, it's starting to come together, and that's the reason it is doing that. And then all we have to do is introduce our colors, because then, you know, then the colors start to really work. So now what I have to figure out, y'all, I want to go work on the sky. But when we look at the black and white, it's almost like the sky, this tone is almost the same as the sky tone up here. The cloud tone is very, very close to this, maybe like this. And so I'm not sure exactly how to do that though, so that it feels like the sky is definitely further away, because usually we can indicate that with color. And that's why this exercise is really good, because it forces your brain to actually look at the tones instead of being lazy and just saying, oh, well, I know the sky is blue, so I can do a gradient of blue and automatically it's going to look like it's in the background and my eyes will tell me it's in the background. So when I really look at it, I think this is the color of most of the sky. And then it will contrast with this up here. I mean, not the color, but the tone. So what I think I'm going to do is mix some of that color, try to get that tone again, but I think I'm going to mix a little more blue so it's cooler. So it's a cooler color. It'll look more shadowed. Let me try to, I might have gone too bright already. Let me see. Yeah, I went way too bright. Ugh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that. Once you add white, it messes everything up. So we may have to just start over, but we can try. Oh, that might work. It's pretty close. All right, let's go in and let's just start putting in some of this sky. Now, obviously, when we do this, it'll be blue, but we want to put in tonally, because very quick, once I put this in, we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, it's going to be very obvious. And that's the advantage of painting this way, because I can see, oh, I have an imbalance very quickly. I can see that. And it's very obvious. And that keeps me from doing a whole painting, get to the end and say, oh, this painting's ruined, because how many times have I done that on this live stream, y'all? It's kind of, I mean, that's kind of our game, isn't it? Where I do. And then I'm like, oh, this didn't turn out the way I want. I'm trying to basically paint the shapes I see around the clouds, like the negative space around the clouds. And I can obviously do some of this like artist's prerogative, but I want to, until I get to a place where I am really just, I have it locked up, I want to really use my, let me do that, maybe that will help. Oh, it looks really dark though, doesn't it? And I want to, maybe so you can see more of what I'm doing with the sky. But it's really, it looks super dark because of the red, but I'll turn off the lights in a minute and hopefully that will help so you can see more accurately what I'm doing. And I'm just, oop, that's too dark. We want it a little bit lighter. I want to come in this area. We have kind of sky there, we have sky there. These are actually lighter. But you get the feeling. As we come down, remember, as we get closer to the horizon, the blue is more diffused because we're looking through more of the atmosphere. So right now, I'm kind of doing the sky all the same, which is not going to work. All the same tone, understanding that we are going to lighten that up dramatically. Okay, because we can't really, so let's lighten this a little bit. This is all going to be cloud basically here. I'm starting to carve out the rock. I don't want to add too much white too quick. Okay, now if we take a little white into that, we put it this will give us a foundation at least. A little bit. I tell you though, I mean, I've repeated this over and over, but this is definitely a, whoops, this is definitely a lesson I'm learning, a challenging exercise for sure. Oh, and I'm getting some grody. I'm gonna have to move do another palette plate. I'm just gonna remix that. Let's see. If we did this right, all of a sudden you should see clouds coming out from around the mountains. And you should see sky. Let's see. It's crazy. It is looking better here than it is on your screen. Let me just tell you that. I will hopefully in a minute turn off some of these lights so that you can kind of see what I'm looking at. Okay, let me turn this off and see if that looks any better. Nope, because we're still, okay. Here you can kind of see a little bit if I block it from the, glare of my overhead light. So you can kind of see there. That's kind of what we're getting. That's more if I take out the glare. So you can really see that we're starting to get there. There's still a lot more work to do on getting the values balanced, but overall, I'm really, especially for a first time, I'm really pleased with that. We have about 45 minutes. We'll keep dialing in these values a little bit. And we'll need to get more layers in. But I'm really, really pleased. What do you guys think so far? Where am I needing to give a little more attention? Anywhere? Thanks. Oh, I didn't realize, Sid, I didn't realize you were watching on LinkedIn. I just noticed that's the little logo next to you. On my thing, it looks like Facebook. It looks like the Facebook. Yeah, I forget sometimes that I'm on LinkedIn too. So yeah, it looked like the Facebook emblem when you first came on. So now that I know these values are working for me, I want to go in and clean this up a little bit, add some more sky tone. I'm so used to saying sky color, but this is actually a sky tone, isn't it? Sky tone. Thanks. Always appreciate y'all's kind encouragement. It's just so much fun, y'all. It's kind of weird to be middle-aged and just now coming to something that just absolutely captures all of your, not all, but a major portion of your interest and energy and all of that. It's very cool, but I'm grateful because maybe, some people never get there. And I'm grateful to have found something that really drives my passion, or that I'm passionate about and is of interest, or that I can, deploy my lifetime to, the time of my life, getting better and trying and exploring and always, I can do this the rest of my life and still never learn everything I would want to. So that's kind of cool. Not a bad way to spend your life. Been giving that a lot of thought. I read something actually on LinkedIn a few weeks ago about time currency and spending time like currency. And we all do, and then it's gone someday. And we all act like we have more money than we have time, and none of us knows. So this is philosophical Steve talking now. But yeah, anywho. I've been giving that a lot more thought lately. Where do I spend my time? How do I spend my time? And do I spend it like I would an investment? I kind of want to, as the artist, I'm realizing this is another thing when you do these tone studies. I actually think I want to change the shape of these clouds a little bit, and I want to middle-aged, not you. I'm still middle-aged. Yes, Mom, you're forever middle-aged. If I live over 90, then yes, I'm middle-aged. So we shall see. But this is getting a lot of the glare. What I want to do, which it will be hard for you to see, is I want to create these clouds that go almost like along this line. I want them to be not as they are in the reference photo, which is more horizontal, but I want them kind of billowing because I want them to actually lead the eye here. So I'm adjusting that in my composition a little bit to bring our eye down to this spot. So I'm connecting some of these spots of clouds, and I'll have to kind of play with that. But I really want these clouds leading down to this center spot. So we will see how that works, if we can do that. But we're almost going to need some I am not sure what I'm doing. I'm trying not to ruin this painting already, but we'll see. Let's see. Yeah, I think I like this, where we lighten up. So we'll have the sky here and kind of the sunrise, sunset coming here. So it all points to this, but it emphasizes this big kind of in the shadows, these big spots. So we'll have to, from now on, we'll have to use the reference photo really as reference. So now I want to take a little bit, I feel really good about where we have this, so I'm going to actually switch to a smaller brush. And emphasize some of these, like recommit to some of these. Let me shut this off and take a photo and step back. I actually really like that. So Oh, that could be also. I have big old smudges on my camera. No wonder. I'm like, why am I getting such bad photos? Probably because I have giant smudges. Notice how these different things I'm trying, when I started, I was just copying tutorials, but by combining the composition, the value study, doing these things, all of a sudden I'm starting to get much better paintings just by changing these few things. And that's really the intent. How can I make these minor adjustments to my technique and my process in order to create a more basically better paintings. Okay, so let's start furthest to closest, and let's go back. Let's re-establish our focal point. Now I want to get a pretty dark shadow, and I want to go back in here. Now I am looking at the left-hand side of the reference photo. So I'm looking at this one without the grid on it, because I want to begin to put in, not detail, but carve out really pretty definite shadows here. What's also nice about this, being able to like really do this all on a gradient like this, is that I don't really have to think too hard about at all about colors. I'm only thinking shapes. And then we begin to put in smaller and smaller shapes. And eventually color will be the very last thing we put in. Which is really, will be exciting. Right? Right. I just wish I had a couple more hours, because I don't think we'll get as far as I would like. I'd love to get to some of the, that's giving you a real bad glare now, isn't it? I wonder what changed. Was it the way I put my camera? You guys are getting awful glare. Excuse me. Okay, well, sorry. Maybe I can. No, that gives you glare from the other side. I promise. Eventually, I'm going to get overhead. I'm going to hang overhead lights somewhere. I'll have a space where I can put overhead lights and. Hey there, Keith. So good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Happy New Year to you and yours. I hope that it is off to a great start and that 2023 treats you extremely kindly. As we go in, we'll just we're constantly playing this game of value adjustment. So but it's so rewarding. Again, that's what we're going for, is that balance that's like, yep, it's working. Y'all, it's coming together better and better. Just gotta... That red brown is really coming out red because it is so because everything around it is so cool, but we will cool it down so it's not as severe. Okay. Now I do need to step back and really take a look because I don't want to lose my values, but I don't know if I am quite to the edge of thanks, Bob G. Sorry, I'm Okay. Yeah, the color. Oh, I'm so glad I didn't start with the color. Let me show you all just real quickly where we're headed. This is the color version. So even without knowing it, look, I added that red down there, and that's actually the actual, I mean, it's heading towards the actual color. But I don't want to brighten that so much that it takes away this. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but I do want to make sure that this is the center focal point like it is. I just don't want this distraction happening on the left-hand side of the canvas. I want this to be the focus. So I'm going to have to mute these colors probably a little bit and just focus on the contrast so that we get our eye is drawn there. But I think I'm going to work over on this side a little bit, knowing what's coming. These are all cooler colors in the reference photo, but let me take that away so I don't get too tied to that, and let me put the other back up. I think I need to go a little bit longer with this reference photo, but I want to come down, and I think I want to do more a cool gray. So I want to bring in more blue to my brown because I want to work on the shadows on the right hand side of that lower portion of the canvas. Let's look at what we want to do. We want kind of a blue-gray. Let me try this. I want to kind of come in here. And it'll look really blue when we get it up here. But I want it to be really clear. These are shadow. These are in the shadows. And that will help us as we come across these. And this is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the old masters, when I was telling you about this is how they would start. They do monochromatic, and then when it was time, they started doing some very muted color introduction, in this case, blue for me. And eventually that blue will probably mostly be gone, but it is there. Then we start to carve out also, without having to paint this, we start to carve out where our walls are. Now, here and there is shadow. Then when we put the brown back against this, it'll really pop out. Okay, now I really want to look at here this is how then I'm going to take this same blue and lay in the lighter parts of this shadow area, and that will give us the contrast we're looking for. In these lowland areas. And over here, again, then bringing this up against these darker spots, then the blue actually looks lighter. So crazy. And all of these layers, one after another, start to really lay on top of each other and be painted over each other, and then they give us a really nice finished product because the texture of the layers of paint is really valuable. But this is what I love, really. I say I love a lot of things, but having to really think and problem solve on the spot and using your logical and creative mind in the same process is really attractive to me. And so that's what's really fun. I think is really fun. Again, I am just basically carving with shades. Carving the shades of values. creating illusion there. Oh my goodness, we are at the end of our time. So I have exacerbated my, but I think we are in a good place. I can't wait. Maybe next week I will just hold this one and then we'll come in. If I work on it, it will be more of this value work. And then I will maybe come in so you can see how I lay the color in, if that works for you all next Monday, because yeah, we are way out of time for what, like, yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop because I could keep going and keep going. Let me switch you back and say a proper good evening. So I'll put you back there and pull my, if I can get my glasses out of here. There we go. And I'll move my camera around so I can say goodnight properly and kind of show you where we are right now. We'll go back there, and then actually I think that needs to go like that. There we go. All right, so this is where we are, y'all. And it's hard to see without the glare. But I feel really good about this. The values seem balanced, and we're gonna, let's push that out of the way. I think I will, yeah, Lola, I think you are right that this is really cool. You guys can see kind of from those of you that were on from the beginning what I was describing and what I was hoping to accomplish. Let me see if that's any, nope, that's not any better. And so you can kind of see where we're going with this. And you can really see it starting to come together if I can balance this correctly, so that the light coming in, and then if I can get the sky correct. But I think if I just keep really working the values like I have been, because it's working so far, then we can really have a cool. What I love about it is it really is giving me that feel of those old West art, the old West art that just really grabs you with the impact of the magnitude of the scale of the space. And so like these up here, it's just, you could see they're just rugged, and it just really works. So that excites me a lot, because I've been trying to figure out how to paint on a reasonably sized canvas images like this, because right outside town we have the Spearfish Canyon, and there are beautiful, breathtaking vistas there that I would love to paint, but I always feel like when I would paint them, it would not capture the feeling of the magnitude of the canyon. But as I do things like this painting, it really starts to give me some confidence that I at some point could capture or could tackle some of those Spearfish Canyon views. So anyway, really happy with how this is coming. So with that, I will say good night to you all. I hope that you have had a great first week of the new year, and that this next week is just as great, and that all of your planning for the new year is starting to gel, and that you really get 2023 kicked off in a big way. I will be, as I said, promoting some additional kind of thought process videos. So if you're interested in those will be on my YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed there. If you're interested in that, I did a goal setting for creatives there, kind of laid out my goal setting process and the things I think about when I set goals. I kind of set areas of objective, and then I set different tactics I'm going to deploy, or different processes I'm going to do in order to achieve the objectives I have. So I don't just set a goal usually that's like, oh, I'm going to do 10 of this and 5 of this and save this and do this. I generally have objective areas that I want to focus, and that video dives into that a little bit. I will be probably producing some additional videos on my specific objectives and the specific areas of focus. Last year, I was focused primarily on my physical health, improving my physical health, and I feel like I made some real dramatic advancements. I want to continue those things, want to continue to develop those habits and sustain those habits. But then this year, I'm also focused on my business. That's how I make my revenue. So my consulting that I do allows me to have time to paint and do other things. And so I'm really trying to flesh out that business this year. So I may be producing some content on how do you balance your work and job and creative endeavors. So if that's of interest to you, that's here on YouTube. All that said, I think I'm also on Instagram stories going to be sharing more of my day-to-day things that are not necessarily all art focused. Typically on Instagram, I have my progress photos for paintings, but in my stories, I think want to start producing more short form content of just everyday things. Like tomorrow, I'll be doing this presentation for here in our local community, and there's a lot of things going on with that. So maybe I'll kind of bring you along with that. All right, that said, let's plan next week, Monday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 Eastern, to continue working on this, and I'll continue to the value work, and then introducing some color, and we'll lay in the colors and see if we can't really make an amazing painting out of this one. I think this could be a frameable one. So it's been a pleasure having you this evening. Thanks so much for being with me for almost 90 episodes. Next week will be 90 episodes. It's been a pleasure and a joy, and I really can see my own progress as I've gone, and I really enjoy you all being here along for the ride. So looking forward to 2023, and I will see you next week on the Paint Party Livestream. Until then, have a great evening, and we'll chat soon.